So I'm going to be honest, there is a certain amount of reticence on my part regarding this video. I wasn't even sure I was going to record it. I actually still don't know if I'm actually going to upload it because it's going to involve a certain amount of honesty that, I have to be honest, makes me a little bit uncomfortable putting it out there in the world. But at the same time, I understand that if I tell my story and it helps just one person who may be struggling with the same things that I was struggling with, then, well, that's a good thing. Okay, I don't know if you know this, but June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. And I want to talk about something that is the biggest amount of BS that anyone can say to any man in their life, be it their father, be it themselves, be it their children. Much like for women, when you're told to smile more and all the thousands of other stupid things you guys have to put up with your life. For men, the biggest BS we have to deal with is man up. Be a man. The idea or the expression that men shouldn't show weakness, that they shouldn't have trauma or deal with those things. That you should, no, just be a man, man up. Just put those things deep down inside and just go on about your life. What are you, a pussy? So I want to talk about how from the age of 20 up until very recently, I would wake up in a start. I've always been one of those people that, like, I'd be the first person to hear if the kids were awake. I'd hear something at the door or something like that. But I'd wake up in a jump. But in these situations, I would wake up covered in sweat. And I don't just mean like a little bit of sweat. I mean, I have sweat completely through my pillowcase, through the sheet that I am lying on, or the sheet that's on top of me. Sometimes I would wake up with a pool of sweat on my chest right here. And I just was like, I guess that's just something that happens to people. You know, maybe I was having a nightmare, but I didn't really have nightmares. That doesn't really occur to me. But I just kind of ignored it and just went on with my life. And then about 4 years ago, before the pandemic, I had a panic attack. Now, a panic attack, if you've never had one, isn't something you can just calm down from. It's not like, ooh, I was a little bit nervous. And like, okay, we'll just sit there and calm down for a second. No. A panic attack is something you have absolutely no power over. And even when you're just doing the most normal thing, it feels like you're about to die. Is the best way I can describe it. To me, it happened the very first time when I was walking my dog, which is fine. But my body and my subconscious was reacting as if someone had put a gun in my mouth and told me they were going to kill me. Your body goes into a full-on fight or flight mode. Your heart is racing, your adrenaline is racing, your mouth goes dry, or it tastes like acidic and acrid. And I'm like, well, this is weird. Strange that. The thing is, they started happening a little bit more. And it's something that you just can't predict. And I remember when I was working on the TV show I was working on at the time, there was one day where I had a 4.5-hour panic attack that came out of nowhere. And I'm having to host a TV show where my eyes are like pinpricks and I'm just having to like squeeze my leg off camera until I could get through the day. And I could never really connect what was really going on. But I've always been a helper. I've been one of those people that when I see someone that's in need, I can't drive past. Or if I see someone that needs help, I go over and help. And I was having this conversation randomly with some friends about 2 years ago. And just as a way of articulating this point, I said, no. You see, because I know what it feels like to be helpless. And that's when the walls broke down. Out of nowhere, I'm just having this conversation. It's like Niagara Falls. I'm not crying. I'm not sobbing. I am uncontrollably leaking liters of tears out of my eyes, and I had absolutely no idea or understanding as to what was happening. And I was like, oh, I'm very sorry. I don't know what's happening right now. And I kind of just had to excuse myself from the room. But it all just kind of sort of came together, is that I realized that as I was waking up in a start, covered in sweat, that I was hearing a sound. And I realized that the sound that I was hearing was the sound of the squeaky door at the dormitory of the boarding school that I went to in the UK. Now, boarding school was a fun old adventure, and I had a great time. And there were some tough times as well, some beatings and everything else. And you just sort of bundle it all together and go, yeah, well, that's just kind of what made me me. But I remember when I was about 15, there were 10 or 11 of us in our dormitory. And the thing is, late at night, if that door opened, you knew it was never a good thing, because it meant the sixth formers, which is like the seniors, are coming for you. Now, usually it's because they want to send you down to the village to go and get them food late at night. They make you break out of school and risk you and you getting in trouble to go and get them food. But you're like, all right, well, I guess it's better than anything else. But on this particular night, these 5 boys came for me. I was 15 at the time. And the long and the short of it was, I think that I had talked to one of their girlfriends. And this guy was, one of the guys was insecure about it. And so I'm lying in bed, but you kind of try and stay still when the door goes because you don't want to get picked, but I could hear them talking about me. So I just lay there and try to pretend to be asleep. And they come up and they shove me and I ignore it. And then they kick me in my kidneys and I ignore it. Just, please go away. Just don't want to be involved. Don't want to be involved. So they took one of those arc lighter things. You know, if you click it and it arcs electricity, you use it to light gas. So they jammed it in my ear and they just set it off, of course, making me react. So now that I'm awake, now I'm a target. And so one each of the boys, they're seniors, they're on the first rugby team. So think like the football players. One each on each leg, one each on each arm. And this guy whose girlfriend I had talked to straddled on top of me and just proceeded to beat me. I don't know how long for. I definitely sort of disassociated as it was happening. There's nothing I could do. They could do whatever they wanted to me. And this guy beat me until my entire chest was a bruise. It burst every single blood vessel in my chest. And I just remember the one thing that I did is I just didn't make a sound. I just took the beating. And I always use that as a kind of badge of honor. I've talked about this a lot. And I'd always talk about it as, oh, let me tell you about boarding school and the crap we used to have to deal with. The thing is, I'd never actually dealt with it, ever, which is why instead of like, you know, talking about it and being honest about it and just jamming it down inside, over 20 something years, it was building and building and building and building and getting worse and worse and worse and then manifesting even as panic attacks, like in my life. So I realized that I kind of had to deal with it. And to be honest, the only reason I realized I was having panic attacks is because of the greatest television show ever made, Ted Lasso. I realized that's what was happening to me. I realized that I was having issues. And much like Ted, I'm also quite reticent about the idea of therapy. Quite resistant to it. Should I have gone to therapy? Yes. Should I probably go to therapy now? Yes. Have I? No. But one thing I did do was really come to terms with the fact that maybe, just maybe, I was a little traumatized from people coming for me at night and beating the crap out of me, and not being able to feel safe and having to just realize that they could do whatever they wanted to my body. And I could piss and moan all about it, but no one was coming to help me. That's just what was going to happen. So what I did was I talked about it, and I cried about it. And I realized I probably was holding on to some anger, even towards my parents. Now, I don't see like I'm angry now, but maybe that the 15-year-old that's still inside me was probably a little pissed that he got sort of abandoned at boarding school and wasn't safe and no one was there to save him. And it's like, well, just welcome to the reality of life, I know, but it's still trauma. It's still something that affects you. So I even went to Thailand. I saw my parents and I just spoke to them very honestly about it. And I said, yeah, I think part of me, part of me is probably angry about that whole situation, that instead of being at home in my bed, I was having the living daylights beaten out of me by 5 guys. But you know what? I don't wake up at night anymore. I don't get panic attacks. I'm not waking up covered in sweat. I feel a lot better about myself. I feel a lot more in control of my emotions. And all that came from was just sort of sitting up putting my hand up and saying, hey, I think I probably have a bit of PTSD from this situation, and maybe I should sort of actually deal with it. Because when you push it down inside, eventually it's going to burst out, and if it's not going to hurt you, it's going to hurt the people around you. So I apologize if I've taken up too much time of your day. But I guess what I wanted to say is, if you're a man, man up and deal with your emotions. Man up and be honest with your weaknesses and your trauma. If you have men in your life, reach out to them and actually check if they're okay. Because we are told that we have to be okay, which sucks when we're not. So yeah, June, Mental Health Awareness Month. Take it on board. Look after yourself. Believe in yourself. And if you have any more doubts, just watch Ted Lasso. That show will make you feel better. All right. Well, thanks for letting me share.